Good to go, man. Yes, sir. I love when you record.
I don't think I'll be
You just bring balls.
Yeah. Cigars for sale, $500 per cigar. Cigar for sale.
Mr. Hood, you got some cuffs
Yes,
sticking
all
out
our
of your back
witnesses
pocket.
are here.
Right, I want to call into session the People versus, well, I guess it's more Tony Vandego versus Jason Hood versus the People. More of a conglomerate, it looks like.
Let me in.
Would the prosecution like to make an opening statement?
Ladies and gentlemen, today's case is about a pair of our city's finest officers who attempted to fix mistakes the easy way instead of the correct way. They are alleged to have participated in government corruption through the extortion, intimidation, and unlawful imprisonment of citizens of our city without just cause. On December 9th, Aries Apollo and Colt Howell went to Mission Road Police Department to recover some property that had been seized. Upon arriving, tensions flared and a small scuffle broke out between Mr. Apollo and some officers. After the tensions calmed, Apollo and Howell found themselves both locked inside the police department, where they were demanded to provide DNA evidence that would incriminate them of other crimes or face arrest. Even though Howell had committed no crimes, he was locked inside a room with several officers, forced to watch his friend be threatened in exchange for evidence to bolster the state's case against him.
Hold it! We're here today because Sergeant Tony Vandego and Detective Hood are being charged with 1 count of government corruption, 1 count of extortion, and 2 counts of unlawful imprisonment. We're going to show that both officers were following the law and procedures set in place by Los Santos Police Department.
Yes, sir. I would like to first off bring Mr. Aries Apollo to the stand, sir.
Mr. Apollo, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you skis?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Apollo, on the evening of December 9th, 2021, prior to the events that occurred at Mission Road Police Department in the lobby, had you been accused of any criminal activity that day, sir?
Yes, sir.
When you were accused of these charges, what did you plead to those charges, sir?
Not guilty.
After you pled not guilty, were you released on bail, out of police custody, and free to go as you wanted, sir?
Yes, sir.
After you were released from police custody, at what point did you realize you were missing items that had been confiscated from you?
Once I returned to my home in the northern part of the city.
Alright, about how long later was that?
I'd say about around half an hour.
Half an hour later? Alright, sir.
You went to the police station to get your body armor back, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Why did Sergeant Vandego have your body armor?
Due to a prior arrest.
Okay. What was said arrest?
It was a bank truck arrest.
Okay. In this arrest, was there any violence committed?
For the relevance of the question, I'm not sure why a previous arrest, as had already been stated too, is relevant to him being held hostage in a room after being released by police.
Is as to why the officer had said body armor, and then as to why it was necessary to detain the
As he was going back to retrieve the item, I'm going to allow it, but let's kind of stay focused on the topic here.
Sorry, can you repeat the question then?
Was there any violence in
In the previous arrest? Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Howell, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you skis?
Yes.
Mr. Howell, prior to the incidents at the MRPD lobby, had you been involved in any allegations of criminal activity earlier in that evening?
Yes.
Alright. After you'd been charged with these criminal activities, what did you plead to those charges?
Guilty.
Okay.
Sir, do you have a joint in your mouth?
Yes.
Can you take it out for the courtroom?
Yes, sorry.
Hal, after you were released from Bolingbrook, can you tell me where you went?
I took a cab back to my house, and that's when Aries told me he didn't get his body armor back.
After he informed you of that, did you go and meet him at Mission Road Police Station?
Yeah, I got to my house from the cab, took my car, and went down to MRPD.
All right. While you were down at MRPD, at any point were you locked inside the MRPD front lobby?
Yes.
At any point were you told that you were being detained or arrested?
Not me specifically, but...
Okay, yes, so that's all I'm asking about is for you. While you were locked inside that lobby, not being accused or charged of any crimes, did you feel free to leave through the locked door, sir?
No, I actually tried to leave, and that's when I posed the question, like, why are the doors locked?
And did you witness Ares Apollo striking other officers?
Yes.
The doors were locked with you inside due to the transgressions between Ares Apollo and the officers. How long were you detained?
20 or so minutes, I guess.
And you stated that did you ever ask to leave?
Not until Mr. Apollo was placed in cuffs and taken downstairs.
Okay, and then at that time were you released?
Yes.
Okay. At any time were you told that you could leave?
No.
Okay, was your DNA taken?
No.
Alright, that's all I have. Thank you.
Alright, Your Honor, I have no further questions for this witness.
Okay, thanks, Red.
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to call up Mr. Tony Vandego.
Alrighty. Mr. Vandego, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you skis?
Yes, sir.
If you would, please say it with your chest.
Yes, sir.
So on the night of this incident that's in question, you said that, could you just explain your side of it for the court, please?
So we had a shootout that lasted about 25 minutes, 30 minutes prior, with the 4 individuals. They shot down 4 of my officers, and we got them back for medical to treat them. We took them to MRPD for processing. They pled not guilty because of the time and fine. I had hold on one second. I had Mr. Ares' body armor because I took it for the time being to get my bearings in order, as I was also training a brand new probie that day, teaching him, etc. So I took his body armor and told him he can get it back when we're done. I told him just remind me. He forgot to remind me. So he 311 or someone 311 requesting Sergeant Dickhead to the front of MRPD. I want my fucking body armor back, or something along those lines. It's in the report that I made. As I went up there, I dropped the body armor off, and as I'm dropping the body armor, I got punched, and something along the lines of, "This is for you, dickhead." We had other officers in the front with me at the time. He tried to punch again. Before he could punch, he was tased, which is standard practice as a matching force. He then proceeded to punch the officer who tased him, and then punched the officer who was Officer Hood at the time. He punched him in the face as well, so he punched me almost 2 times, and then 2 other officers. At that time, I told him, "You're being detained for assault," and then I went over the fact that I was trying to get his DNA, and I didn't want to, he already been fined so much previously, and I didn't want to make his fines worse or his times worse. So I made him a deal saying I'll drop charges if I can get the DNA, instead of continuing to press charges as he just assaulted 3 officers. He refused, so I thought in his best interest I could call his lawyer. His lawyer could talk to him. They could get a full, understanding of what's happening. So it's not just our side. So he has it's all fair for him. So I called Hugh. I told him to come down. I told him the situation. He proceeded to get mad and say, "Fuck you." And I said, "Listen, I don't want to arrest you. You did just assault 3 officers. So at this time, you are still being detained." We also opened the doors multiple times for the other people in the room, which were Timothy Wyatt and I don't remember the other gentleman, but we let the doors open multiple times to let them out. They might not have heard us or might not have seen us unlock the door and say leave, but they stayed in the room for about another 10 minutes.
Did you say that Mr. Apollo arrived aggressive with the altercations between himself and the officers within the room? Would you say that when the other 2 individuals arrived, I believe that's Mr. Wyatt and Mr. Colt Howe, would you say that they were also showed an aggressive manner towards you?
They were more confused, I guess, because there was a lot of yelling in the room at the time. as Aries was yelling when he punched us, and it was a lot of people in the room, but they didn't necessarily show any form of aggression other than the 311 that one of them sent.
Were these two individuals also charged with the charges that Mr. Apollo was charged with earlier in the evening?
Yes, sir, they were.
Okay. Now, as recently stated during previous questioning, it was stated that Mr. Apollo pled not guilty. At the time of the charges brought against them, did they have the option to plead guilty or not guilty?
Yes, sir, he was, and he also had his lawyer down in the cells during the option, or during you're talking about when the shootout occurred, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, they have.
Basis of relevance, I'm not sure how the previous incident is related to whether he was extorted for his DNA at the later incident. Almost an hour apart.
They're just
For my 9 months on duty, shooting at 4 cops usually is considered a violent crime, and then proceeding to assault 3 more.
Is simple assault a violent crime, sir?
I would say so, yes.
So you DNA swab every person who commits a simple assault? The lowest misdemeanor in our
Normally-
entire penal code.
Normally, no, but when they've shot at 4 officers 30 minutes prior, it shows that they already are more aggressive than the average person. So when you show multiple signs of aggression in a short span of time, then yes.
So you took the DNA because you felt he was a danger to you?
Because he just committed a violent crime after 30 minutes of doing a violent crime 30 minutes prior.
Did he commit a violent crime and assaulting the officers?
Yes.
Okay, no further questions. Going in circles.
punching someone into the head until they black out. I'm going to consider that violent.
Is a single strike violent, Your Honor? Just to further clarification, I apologize.
Did they ask to knock their hat off because they were wearing a stupid hat? That's
no, I wasn't
not
there.
violence. Like, that's not violent. But if it's like a repeated punch in the head, I feel like that's violent, yes.
I'd like to call Mr. Detective Hood up to the stand for questioning.
Hood, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you skis?
I do.
Okay, to take DNA samples after a suspect has committed violent crimes.
Yes.
And then on the evening of the incident, regardless of whether Mr. Apollo pleaded guilty or not, or took the plea deal that Sergeant Vandego was offering him, was your intention to collect the DNA regardless of the outcome?
If I was advised to take the DNA sample, then as the detective, I am the officer to do it, so yes.
Sir, you just stated that it's customary to take DNA after a violent crime. When do you normally take that DNA, sir?
Depends on the situation. If EMS are on duty, EMS will be the ones to take DNA. If EMS are not clocked in on duty, detectives will be the ones.
Okay,
to
but
take
it's
DNA.
usually taken while that individual is still in police custody, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you advised on the day of the incident that you could get a warrant to acquire Mr. Arias' DNA, either from him or from a lawyer present, or from Mr. Vandego?
I do not recall now.
Alright. Mr. Hood, at any point was it stated to Mr. Apollo that if he does not provide his DNA, he would be arrested? Or was that general message conveyed?
I'm not sure how it was conveyed to him. Sergeant Vandego offered him to receive lesser time and fine if he cooperated with officers.
Your Honor, I have no further for this witness. Thank you, Mr. Hood.
Detective Hood, at the time that Mr. Apollo's DNA was taken, was he or was he not in police custody?
He was, yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the court, Your Honor, I do believe through the testimony presented today, it has been shown pretty apparently that Mr. Arias Apollo was indeed not free to make the decision to hand over his DNA willingly. He was threatened both by officer statements and actions that if he did not provide his DNA, he would be arrested. Per our penal code, extortion is any sort of threat or action that is to acquire any sort of gain. These officers acquiring the individual's DNA would be personal gain to them because they would have an easier case, they would have more evidence, and it would also save them time in doing further investigative work for their other cases. To hold these individuals imprisoned unlawfully and extort Mr. Aries Apollo for his DNA evidence. At this time, I have no further to say.
In an act of kindness, 2 officers are in danger of losing their jobs for doing their job. There was no unlawful imprisonment as stated today. The 2 individuals were not DNA swabbed, and they had the chance to leave when they asked. The extortion charges are unprecedented as there were options stated and no threats given. Aries Apollo was detained and the DNA swab was taken. The government corruption charge is irrelevant as there was no personal or monetary gain. The only thing that can be said is that the SOP on how to obtain DNA was taught through word of mouth and was not in written form. This is not against the officers involved for the system itself. Mr. Apollo had also taken a plea deal for the charge itself.
Let's start at the top. As for the testimony of the people who did not have their DNA tested, officers have testified that the doors have been opened. However, it may not have been very clear that they were, actually open. I'm going to dismiss that. On the charge of extortion, to the testimony of Mr. Apollo and the other officers, fists were thrown and some ass were beat, some clapped or cheeks, thus making it a plea deal and no longer an extortion case. I do believe that officers could handle things better whenever locking the doors at MRPD. However, if there's a fist fight, I lock the doors in the courtroom. I completely understand that. I don't want to get punched in the face. I'm going to speak to Captain. Possibly we can review that. I feel like I'm missing something here. What am I missing?
Say they're guilty already.
The government corruption charge that was pending on the other 2 charges, which you're missing, sir.
Government corruption job. They are doing their job. They are not benefiting financially in any other way from them completing their job.
Y'all would.
So I will be dismissing the government corruption jobs as well, seeing as if the officer was trying to give the defendant a plea deal in lieu of charging him for an additional crime. So all charges will be dropped. And that will be the end of the court hearing tonight. Although I believe we may have another court hearing tonight based off the gentleman in handcuffs in the court.
Correction. No, Your Honor, you ate my coat. You said I could arrest him.
Hey, they free, man.
Okay, someone get the man who likes to eat toes a lawyer, please.
They free, man. The boys.
Jesus.
Professionalism.
Actually, hey, Mr. Hood, I'll tell you this because it's more relevant to you.
Fuck yeah, Vandego.
Yes, sir.
That's my fucking boy. Yeah.
PD gang, bro. 24/7 ops, bro.
Someone in Los Santos to know that we're not always out to get you and trying to ruin your life. We're officers of the law. We're here to protect the streets and balance everything in your life. So it's not always us trying to get you. It's just us doing our job. What about you, Vandego?
Yeah, I don't think I could have said it any better myself. At the end of the day, I'm here to help people out in some of the hardest moments of their life. Keep the city safe, as corny as it sounds. And when stuff like this happens, it's a big slap in the face to a lot of officers. We genuinely care and we genuinely want to make a difference. We can't do that when we try to help you out, and we end up getting screwed because of it. So I really hope people see this and realize that we're not trying to ruin your life. We're trying to do what our job is. Glad I didn't lose my job, and I'm glad I can still protect people. And oh yeah, I'm gonna go get fucked up.
Alright.
Yep, probably gonna go celebrate, take maybe a day off.
Maybe like 17. I like tequila a lot, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe Sergeant Galveston's apartment.
Yeah.
I am.
Hey.
That's why